Where can you find the Gettysburg Address chiseled into an outside wall? Geoffrey Bear will take you there in tonight's edition of Ask Geoffrey. Geoffrey, good to see you.
Good to be here.
And let me get my paper straight in here. First question comes from Schaumburg, and it is, I recently saw an old Route 66 TV program showing a public observation deck on the Tribune Tower. I never knew this existed. Is it still open to the public?
Well, first of all, we looked and looked, and we actually found the clip that the viewer was talking about, thanks to our friends at MeTV. So let's just watch the clip first.
Okay.
So there it is,
Ooh.
right there at the top of Tribune Tower.
That's very dramatic.
It's very dramatic. And in fact, look at the camera. It looks like a handheld camera on the top of the floor above. This is right at the top of the tower. And look, there's Marina City under construction in the background.
Yeah, you can see the crane.
Yeah, so this had to be like 1963. And now this was one of actually two observation decks that were on the Tribune Tower. Neither one of them is open to the public anymore. Admission was 25 cents. The top floor observatory, which is the one we saw in the Route 66 clip, obviously offered the higher view. But there was another observation deck a few floors below that on the 25th floor, one floor above Colonel McCormick's imposing office. And this one had a more dramatic setting because it was right at the base of these huge flying buttresses. We had a cameraman go out and shoot that for us. Right at the base of those flying buttresses, Tribune architecture critic Blair Kamen is pretty sure that this one was also open to the public because there are these quotations on the walls, just like the ones that are etched into the walls of the Hall of Inscriptions, which is the main lobby in Tribune Tower. And Blair says, you know, why would there have been inscriptions there if no one could see them? The inscriptions include the entire Gettysburg Address and also a great tribute by Colonel McCormick himself to the soldiers of the U.S. Army's 1st Infantry Division.
And there's the Gettysburg Address.
There it is, the whole thing. So these observatories were closed in the 1950s because they actually were getting too much competition from the newly opened observatory on the top of the Prudential building.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
But you know what? I bet there still might be some interesting people to go up there and look around.
Yeah, I've been up there. It's pretty interesting. It's an amazing view of North Michigan Avenue.
Worth the 25 cents that you paid to get in.
Well, you know, I got a special pass.
Good for you. That was just part one of a two-part question, because the Don from Schaumburg continues to ask, goes on to ask, at the episode's end, the characters drive past a horse-drawn peddler's cart. That made me wonder how long horse-drawn commercial traffic was allowed on Chicago streets.
Yeah, so again, same episode of Route 66. I think you probably saw it on MeTV. It was right at the end of the episode that he saw this, and we found it, so let's take a look at that clip as well.
I have a feeling you're about to be profound. It's entirely possible.
So again, this is 1963. There's the L. They're driving a shiny Corvette, and then right, you know, in the other direction comes this horse-drawn peddler's cart. And it's a great question. You know, in 1963, we still had horse-drawn peddler's carts. So we contacted the Chicago History Museum, and they found a Chicago Tribune article saying that licensure for peddler's carts, this is a picture from the article, was dropped in 1972 from the municipal code. And actually, there hadn't been a horse-drawn peddler's cart seen on the streets of Chicago since 1968. Now, actually, this caused a little licensing mix-up in the 1980s when, you know, tourist horse and carriage businesses started up on North Michigan Avenue. There was sort of
Didn't have to do with shared kitchens, did it?
No, I was going to say, believe it or not, it's the same agency that licenses these carriages that was the subject of the interview you did right before this one.
Really?
Yeah, the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection now licenses horses and carriages in Chicago as well as shared kitchens. So we have a theme going here tonight.
I guess so.
Anyway, these horses and carriages...
Anything to keep those horses out of the kitchen, so we don't want that.
No horses in the kitchen. The horses and carriages returned to North Michigan Avenue in the 1980s, and there was no licensing requirement. And it got kind of crowded, so the carriage drivers themselves said, or the carriage company said, we need licensure. The licenses are now limited to 60. There are only 31 now. There's 111 licensed carriage drivers, and so we now have licensing once again for horses and carriages in Chicago.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but maybe we can get this last question in, and the question is, I remember a neighborhood of brick homes that seemed to be on the DePaul University campus. Do those homes still stand? Who built them?
Well, these were the McCormick row houses, and they are now a Chicago landmark. They were built by the McCormick Theological Seminary. They sort of look like they're right on the campus of DePaul University. And I think, Phil, we might take this one up next week because we're probably out of time.
Okay, good enough. And I know what you're talking about. They're really
those
handsome
beautiful
structures.
row houses.
Okay, let's not waste the pictures now when we don't have time to talk about
All
them.
right.
Thanks you, Geoffrey. And for more information on these Chicago landmarks, be sure to visit our website. And if you have a question you'd like to ask Geoffrey, or a question about wine and spirits for Alpinist Sing, you can email us at askwttw@wttw.com, or you can call 773-509-5360 to leave a voice message with your question. That number again, 773-509-5360.